Has the Lincoln property market peaked? Should you buy now, or wait for the bargains? Many commentators believe we have seen the peak of the Lincoln property market. So, should savvy bargain hunters wait for Lincoln house prices to fall? Or could postponing your house buying for any anticipated Lincoln house price drop be a costly mistake? Over the last 2 years, the Lincoln property market has been a rollercoaster ride of hyperactive demand, together with the new sport of getting your offer accepted when you compete with 30 other bidders. Yet there are clouds on the horizon that the Lincoln property market could be at its peak. Bank of England interest rates have increased 4 times in the last few months to try and combat inflation. Meanwhile, many Lincoln households are finding it tough to counter the most significant drop in real incomes in a single year since records began in the mid-1950s, all at the same time as gas, heating oil, and electricity prices are predicted to rise again in the autumn. Hence why some economists are predicting house price drops in the coming 18 to 24 months of 3 to 5%. So, surely this is not the best time to buy a Lincoln property, and surely savvy buyers should wait for Lincoln house values to fall. Is it realistic to see double-digit national house price growth? Certainly not. The question is how far the Lincoln property market will slow and whether the slowing will drop into modest falls. Let me look at household income first. At best, the outlook is gloomy as real household disposable income is set to drop by 2.4% in 2022-23, the largest drop since records began in 1956. This is despite the £17.6 billion of financial support for British households revealed in Rishi Sunak's spring statement with the national insurance thresholds, energy bill support package, and duty cut on petrol. Without these changes announced by the Chancellor, real household disposable income would have fallen by an additional 1% in 2022-23. Second, as interest rates increase, mortgage rates will increase in line, increasing mortgage costs. So surely that will curtail demand, meaning Lincoln house prices will drop, and buyers should wait to catch a bargain. Finally, with inflation on the rise, the real value of people's savings will decrease quicker, and the value of their deposits will diminish, meaning Lincoln prices will surely drop, and people should wait to buy. Surely the Lincoln property market has peaked and buyers should wait for the bargains. Well, I don't think so. And these are the reasons why I say that. I believe, subject to no significant shocks in the world economy, Lincoln house price growth will be very slow in the next 18 to 24 months, and go into low single digits, even the odd month dipping ever so slightly into the red, but not the 16 to 19% annual drop we saw in 2008-9. Let me look at real household income. Every economist predicts growth in real household income in 2023-24 by around 1%. If the 2 years are combined, the predicted effect on real household income in the next 2 years, 2022-23, 24, is a net loss of 1.4%, whilst in the credit crunch years the 12th of November 2010, the net loss was 2.7%. I was looking at the increase in mortgage rates. 79% of owner-occupiers have fixed their mortgage costs and had their affordability stress tested to Bank of England interest rates of 3 to 4% under the Mortgage Market Review rule changes in 2014. I believe the most significant impact of increasing interest rates will be at the point of taking on a new mortgage by first-time buyers, as opposed to servicing or the porting of an existing mortgage from one house to the next. The 4 successive Bank of England base rate rises, inflation and the rising cost of living are likely to bring more cautiousness over summer and autumn when it comes to people buying a property. Yet, there is still a massive imbalance of demand for property over the number of properties for sale to quench that demand. The potency of the job market and the ongoing mismatch between the supply of properties, mentioned in last week's article on the Lincoln property market, on the market and demand for those properties will support property values. Finally, the byproduct of increasing inflation is that it makes buy-to-let more attractive. If there is a reduction in first-time buyers, this will be counterweighted by more landlords buying again, supporting the current level of Lincoln properties. But what if Lincoln house prices do drop significantly? So let's assume that Lincoln house prices do fall. Irrespective of the reasons above, it will not inevitably help Lincoln buyers. If we have a house price crash, people tend to find their careers are at risk, and their salaries don't rise as much. The younger generation, i.e. first-time buyers age range, often gets hit the toughest by recessions. If first-time buyers wait until 2024 to buy, and Lincoln property values drop by 10%, that will prove more expensive. In the last 2008 '90s crash, lenders weren't offering 5% deposit mortgages. The lowest deposit mortgage that first-time buyers could get was with a 10% deposit, and even then, they were hard to come by. When writing this article, first-time buyers can obtain a 5% deposit mortgage for a fixed rate of 2.66% for 5 years. The typical first-time buyer terraced house in Lincoln sells for £171,600. So, if they were to buy now, on this mortgage deal, the first-time buyer would have to stump up a £8,580 deposit, and their mortgage payments would be £596.86 per month. Yet, let's say property values in Lincoln do drop by 10% in the next 18 months, the terraced house would now be worth £154,440, so a significant saving. Or is it? Everyone believes interest rates will rise further, so let's assume they go to 3% by the autumn of 2023. That means the mortgage rate for a 10% deposit mortgage will be in the early 5%. So let me assume 5.29%, because the banks tend to increase the gap between the base rate and the mortgage rate in recessions to allow for the extra risk. The monthly mortgage payment on the 5.29% mortgage would be £727.41 per month, and you would need to double your deposit to £15,444. So, even if Lincoln's house prices did drop by 10%, the first-time buyer would be £1,570 worse off a year in mortgage payments and would have to find double the deposit. And then there is the other cost of waiting. You have 2 years' worth of rent to pay. The average rent for a Lincoln property is £642 per month. If you waited a couple of years for Lincoln house prices to drop by 10%, you would spend £26,376 in rent. Choosing to buy a Lincoln property makes even more economic sense if it is a long-term choice, as homeowners can ride out any house price drops. Homeowners who plan to stay in a property can generally rely on getting their money back within 6 to 10 years whilst not paying any rent. Will Lincoln prices go up? Or will they go down? Remember, George Osborne said house prices would drop by 18% in May 2016 if we voted to leave the EU, whilst many economists said they would drop by 5 to 10% when COVID hit in March 2020. And we all know what happened. If you think you will be better off owning your own Lincoln home rather than renting one, don't bother to wait for the suggested house price drop that may never happen. These are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments.